Hey folks, and welcome back to the Small Tech Podcast. Today we have another amazing guest. She has been a business advisor, a director of a Montessori school, and for the past few years she has been building Edify Learning Spaces, the world's leading tutor matching platform for neurodivergent children. She is Priya Tronsgard. Hi, Priya.
Hi, thank you. I think most people to say neurodivergent is a mouthful. And I like to say neurodivergent, and I also like to say anyone who learns differently.
Yeah.
And I think that is very easy to understand and say.
Yeah,
Welcome
that
to
is
the
easy.
club,
Yep, definitely tripping over my words there.
everybody. I mean, saying it, spelling it, you think they would choose an easier word, but here we are.
Yep.
Neurodivergent. Yeah. So that's anybody with ADHD, living as an autistic, has dyslexia, dyscalculia, and any other learning difference, and need more support and have additional powers that are given to them that we can all benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, with that, I'd love to learn more about how you got here. I was, doing my research, digging through your LinkedIn, and, I've talked to you in the past, so I kind of know some of this stuff, but I wanted to dig into how you ended up starting Edify. What was this journey like through life that led you to this place?
Yeah, so I've been lucky in life to experience lots of different things, like most of us. But I think what really helped me start Edify was my belief in seeing kids who could do better in our current system. Both of my kids are neurodivergent. They learn differently. They are awesome and autistic. They are awesome and have ADHD. And I learned so much from them. And I think seeing them thrive in our current education system was the impetus of what helped me start Edify. And, working in the education field for over 20 years helped me realize that parents need support. And I knew that there was something really magical happening, and I wanted to share that. And that's what Edify is.
Awesome. And I think I know this already, but this is your first step into entrepreneurship or not? Had you started things before?
Oh, yeah. So I started when I was 12. So what happened was a sad story. So my mom passed away when I was 12. My dad's an entrepreneur, and my brother was 7 years old. So there we were with a mortgage to take over. And
Mhm.
mortgages were a lot more affordable back then, but we still were not making enough. So
Mhm.
on the weekends, we would DJ local wedding during the summer. And then we started to build out our offerings. And I did that for 10 years until I graduated from UBC. So I think that was my first opportunity in really building the product offering and increasing our net revenue by 10x. So I think that was my first step. Even though I didn't start it, I was part of that business and then also started with the offerings. And there was a lot I learned in those years while growing up.
Mhm. What sort of things can you think of that you learned back then that you're sort of applying now?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that still sticks with me today. I'm a non-technical founder, but the things that I learned about building relationships started from that young age of 12. And so I was DJing at 12 and, like setting up the amp and making sure that I knew how to run a turntable and connect all of that to a speaker system and then put the speaker system away. And by the time you hit the bed, it's 4 a.m
Yeah.
and you're still, in grade 8, for example. And so I think I got lost in the sauce, meaning that I was really about how to set up the DJ equipment.
Mhm.
But as I grew into the business and saw opportunity, I saw that the main thing that I had to service were the customers, not the
Yeah.
speakers. And that has stayed and stuck with me. And I think no matter if there's a technical aspect to what you're doing or a brick and mortar or you're doing, a barter system, I think the most important thing is who you're trying to help.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that stuck with me.
Amazing. And so from then, from UBC, where do you move on? What happened
I
next?
okay, everybody's get into business and I have my degree in psychology, which is useful.
Yeah.
And then I decide, I think I want to live in Japan and work for the Tokyo Board of Education.
Amazing.
Yeah, not the same
That's so
thing.
cool.
It was very cool. I really wanted to know more about the culture. I really wanted to immerse myself in a culture. Growing up in Vancouver, I felt Vancouver didn't have a culture. And now I think differently. I think that
Mm.
it is a beautiful culture of many, but there wasn't like a monoculture. And I really wanted to immerse myself into that. And I learned a lot about education in Japan as well and how they run their education businesses, and that was interesting and eye-opening for me.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot of different things there, and I heard a lot of things like, "You're not going to get a job because you are brown, and they're really just looking for a white person with blue eyes and blonde hair to teach English."
Yeah.
And I ended up just making more connections and making more friendships and
Mhm.
getting extremely awesome opportunities that nobody else was getting. And so, if 99% of the population is Japanese and there's only 1% who isn't, and they have a big idea about foreigners, and I found a way to make that connection. I think that was my biggest win is making those connections and those relationships that were meaningful that cut through some of the, apprehension.
Yeah. Can you pull a bit or dig a little deeper into that? I feel like you've talked about building connections and talking to people and connecting with people. How does that work for you? What's important when you're exploring a new culture, when you're trying to connect with a new community? Yeah.
Yeah, so I really think that I really wanted to know, why the culture was so polite and
Mhm.
how they had systems within systems. And I looked at that and I looked at how it's an island. My family originally comes from an island, so I kind of felt like I understand a little bit about, the community aspect. And so I think I went in with the understanding and the empathy that
Yeah.
I know what it feels. I kind of know what this could feel like,
Yeah.
even though I grew up in Vancouver. So I kind of use that empathy to make stronger connections. I didn't think of it at the time, I just vibed with it and,
Yeah.
enjoyed it. But as I look back now, I think there's some clear themes of connecting, making real relationships, and really trying to understand. Of course, it's easy to be like, "Okay, you're racist," and that's done, but then that would have been a short trip. I ended up staying for 5 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that long. That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, I felt very welcomed by most people. Yeah.
Nice. And so when you were there, you were working in the education space. What did you pull out of that experience that you're applying now or in your previous experiences here in Vancouver?
Yeah, I think the idea of doing your best is something that I will always take away from Japan. Like, they really have that ethos of trying to do your best. It doesn't mean everywhere, it means in
Hmm.
your specific lane. And I think the teachers seeing that in the kids and really trying to pull that, the quality out is kind of different from here. Yeah. And then also, I feel like they work a lot, and so that's really hard. So I wanted to use that as a warning to like, okay, there's a limit. There's nobody, no culture is perfect, but I think based on what I saw in the education system there, they had few resources. They had very little resources in comparison to what I see here. They have more students in a classroom. They have less support. They don't have EAs. They have teachers who are working way too late into the night. And I just think we have something special here too. I had to see Canada has great resources, even though it doesn't feel like it, but in
Hmm.
comparison to a country like Japan that still does really well with math and science and has fewer resources. I think we can pick good things from each of these systems and make a little, wonderful product for families to get the best of the best.
Amazing. Yeah. So maybe let's dig into Edify a little bit. Like, what are these things that you've brought together and that you're sort of into this platform, Edify?
Yes. One of the things that's really interesting about Japan is that they have a separate school called Juku that's after school, and the kids usually study um, from late to late. So like 3:30 till 8 o'clock. But it's not even related to their school.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's related to it could be their university entrance exam or it could be other exams that they're preparing for. So that
Hmm.
is one idea that I think Edify uses. So what we study after school one-on-one, or it doesn't even have to be during school. So we have all modalities that use Edify. So we even had a family that wanted their child to know how to read mortgage rates and interest rates, right? So
Interesting.
rather than doing certain types of math,
Yeah.
so the family had their own goal. And I think that piece of Juku is okay, this is a big goal that your family wants, which is different from your daytime education. So I think that's one of the things that we take. And then the other is to stretch capabilities. So a lot of times kids who are neurodivergent, who have ADHD, who are autistic, feel like they are bored at school or that it's not important. And then coming from that, if you're not interested, you're not going to do your best. And all of these things kind of cascade in a way that we think doesn't have to be the only way.
Yeah.
And so stretching the capability based on the child's interest. So that based on the child's interest, that's separate.
Hmm.
But stretching the capability, it is possible, especially if they're interested. Let's say they like Minecraft. So then we can do math through Minecraft. And
Yeah.
it's or there's kids who have a so in Canada, we say ODD officially, but parents around the world have been using PDA, which is a pathological demand avoidance. But a lot of parents are saying a pervasive look for autonomy and like looking for that autonomy and that the kids' bodies are and minds are wired that way. So it's really important to kind of see oh, a lot of kids don't want to go to school if they have that profile of PDA a
Hmm.
pathological demand avoidance. That means they're going to school, able to do all of those things, but once they get a demand, their mind says no.
Interesting.
So what happens to those kids? A
Yeah.
lot of them can't do well in the school system because they're not
Hmm.
given that, autonomy to explore for themselves. And they're wired that way. And, to get penalized for your life because you can't do a couple of years of school it seems a bit harsh to me. So I know and these kids are amazing. So we have some kids that teach our tutors of how to get into their games.
I love that. That's so
Yeah, so
cool.
the tutors jump into their world.
Huh.
A lot of these kids are autodidactic. They learn best by themselves.
Yeah.
So how do we stretch that? We jump into their world.
Huh.
And, it's kind of interesting because that piece, that face to face piece, of course, kids could learn a lot of things through the Khan Academy or other, math videos online or AI. But the reality is that there's still some sort of connection
Hmm.
through face to face
Yeah.
and voice to voice. That's a real person
Yeah.
and there's still that connection. So I think that's where we stretch capabilities when the child is ready and they feel safe and they can show us what they're doing and we can help them stretch that. I think that's a bit of how we get our children to thrive and give them the opportunities to be leaders in this world.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm curious, like, how, okay, you have all of these ways of structuring your teaching and you're building a platform. Like, how do those two things come together? The education side of it and the technology side of it, how do those merge?
I feel like I'm still figuring out exactly how they merge, but what I
Yeah.
do know is that My experience working, training, and supporting and providing resources for staff
Mm-hmm.
is part of what makes Edify different. So we hire people who know how to work with kids like mine and
Mm-hmm.
ours. And then, so the hiring process has to be vetted very carefully, right? These aren't average teachers, nor should they be. This
Yeah.
is specialized, this is niche. This could be considered even coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really going with the strengths and where children show their own strengths. So it's really important that we hire the type of person that really understands who these kids are and what these families are trying to do. So that's the main thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're still coming up with training opportunities. But at the moment, I am looking to grow the teaching aspect of that so it's more automated.
Awesome.
Yeah. And there's different segments, right? So ADHD, and sometimes it's ADHD with dyslexia, and sometimes it's autism with dyslexia, and sometimes it's PDA. Like it's all mixed. It's never usually just one.
Yeah. And so you have this platform and you have these educators that you're sourcing and you're making sure that you've got the right people. How do you bring them together? How do you find, like, how do you match children to the right educators? What does that
Yeah.
process look like? And
Well,
is it a tech process or is it a human
it's a tech
process?
pro
Like,
it's a
okay.
semi-tech process. I think there's the opportunity as a non-tech founder and a business-minded person to create the technology ourselves,
Mm,
but currently we are pre-matching using simple aspects such as Google Form, right? And so I think the pre-matching component is here at the moment until we reach the tipping point of not being able to manage it and then build out the matching technology, which we're not there yet.
yeah.
So we are on our way. Currently, I have not automated the lead generation. And once that happens, I think it's an opportunity to build out because I always grew up in that way of not not having debt,
Mm,
'cause I'm an I grew up in the old school way where you make the money first,
yeah.
right? So I guess now we could say product market fit. So I wanted to prove the product market fit, know my customers, know my families, and know what works best for them before I invest in a standalone product. But until
Hmm.
then, I've been using products that exist, and that's been really lovely. And it has allowed me to grow and still be here. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years,
Yeah. And you're on
right?
year 6.5 or something like that now?
So Edify in this iteration started in August 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been 4 years.
All right.
Yeah, and you couldn't put me out of business
Yeah.
unless I got into building a brand new product or I just paid somebody a bunch of money because on its
Hmm.
own, it's running on its own. And
Awesome.
I think that's a fantastic place to be
Yeah.
because it's just running on its own. Any new onboarding that happens is without any paid advertising. But I know that there's other people all around the world that would benefit from this and are completely underserved. We grow the tech component will need to be more standalone. It won't be wrapped up by somebody else. I'm going to have to do that. I need a lot of advisors to help me make the right decision because I'm a non-technical founder. But even then, even if you are a technical founder, I think you kind of know what you know and things are changing daily,
Yeah.
right? Even with AI and how that's integrated. Yeah.
All of this stuff moves so fast. And I feel like if you're going to be in tech, like one of the things that you need to embrace is just that you're going to have to constantly learn about stuff. Yeah, it, it's
Yeah,
wild out there.
yes, completely agree. And I think one of the things that helps me sleep at night as a non-technical founder is knowing that I have a community of people. That's my moat.
Yeah.
My moat is the community,
Yeah.
right? The community of advisors, the community of experts, and they're all going to be supportive and they're all data points in how
Hmm.
I make the best decision for my company. And
Yeah.
I think that's how I sleep at night, because if I didn't have that,
Yeah.
I would constantly be trying to fill in the gaps, and I'm only one person.
Yeah.
And even with a team of 100 people, I think you still don't know based on what technology is coming ahead, and you just still don't know. But I think with that community piece, you have a better sense on how to proceed to your vision in a better way.
Yeah. I feel like particularly in tech, and I think particularly for technical people in tech, we tend to undervalue the strength and just sort of power that comes from the human connections and the value that you provide to an actual human being within the context of a business. So yeah, I think that really
Yeah,
resonates
I
with
I
me.
think and I agree, like, that it's the real person, and a lot of times, I got lost in the, like, reading what was the best and who put out this information, and they're a leader, a thought leader, but the
Hmm.
best information always came out from my circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think as a non-technical founder, that is one of the most important things that I have. Yeah, and so going from non-technical founder in kind of the old world, not using technology and trying to move that into a tech-enabled world has been a lot smoother because of the community. I've also been really fortunate to be part of an incubator and accelerator program, and I think anybody who's a non-technical founder, if there is an accelerating accelerator program or incubator program where there's some sort of structure and community built in, that is going to increase your chances of success even more. So I've been really fortunate to be part of that.
That's awesome. And with that in mind, what's next? Like, how are things moving forward? What are you excited about?
Yeah, so I just left the Mosaic Accelerator yesterday. That was the end of the 8 weeks.
Awesome.
And so what's next is we loved it so much that our cohort has decided to stay in touch and have a standing meeting time. So that is a continuation. Everything that I had learned from the incubator is basically being implemented as we speak. So I am obviously changing my landing page and making sure that is optimized to mobile phones that are being used now and operating system, making sure that it shows up, it's clear. I'm speaking to my audience, and all of that needs to be updated quite often. So that's what's next is my UX UI piece. I will be going to the Collision conference in Toronto June 15th, so in a couple of weeks from now. I will continue to grow my community and look for partnership opportunities. I'm always looking for more tutors who want to help the outcomes of the lives of these kids that can do so well if they're supported. And just a continuation and growth and scalability for Edify. Those are really, I'm going for the moonshot. I really think that and believe that once people see that in 3 to 6 months, their kids have changed how they approach learning, and they have that inner confidence, and they have increased their grades by 1 year or 2 years within 3 to 6 months, or they're going back to school, or they're standing up to their bully, or they're passing grade 12, or they're entering the program that they want. And once they see that, then I know that other families will be positively affected and just want to join in to that opportunity for their families.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm super excited to see what comes next, and I love the way you talk about your vision and your mission and where things are going. Yeah, thank you so
I
much
believe in it.
for
Thank you.
telling me about it.
It's so easy when your kids are showing you how good things can be,
Yeah.
right? You know, Before we end, I wanna say that I found out that, my daughter was autistic when she was 2.5, and they gave me this report, and in
Mhm.
the report, it said that she was more likely to commit suicide and be a drug user and be homeless, and here's this girl who's 2.5,
Yeah.
and I knew that there was a better way. They did not talk about the good case scenarios.
Yeah.
It all came from a deficit model. I really want to change that because I
Yeah.
know that if it wasn't for my, I guess, uh, optimism, that I
Hmm.
could have fallen into this downward spiral.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important for families to know that there are fantastic outcomes, there's great outcomes, and there is a pathway to success. And I want to highlight that to all these families so that they don't have to see what I saw.
Yeah. I that's you're amazing. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm really hopeful, and I know that we can help families. And when I see families after a couple years and they start crying when they see me,
Yeah.
and they're crying happy tears, I didn't know at
That's
first.
that's so lovely.
Oh
That's
no, they're
beautiful.
crying. What did I do? But you changed the trajectory of our lives. So I think it's really easy to keep going with Edify. It's already built in terms of helping families. It doesn't need any additional money until we get to a certain point.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to do this. I'm fueled on good vibes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for this
Cool.
opportunity to share and,
Yeah.
for all of the impact support that you have for small entrepreneurs and for small businesses. It's really hard to always get that support, but to have you, shout out an impact company like we are trying to solve a United Nations Sustainable Goal number 4 for
Yeah.
inclusive education and to get that shout out from your podcast is such a gift, and I really appreciate you for that.
No, I appreciate you. This was amazing. I love talking to you. It's always just lovely to hear what you're building, and it was wonderful to have you on the podcast. Um, with that, this is the Small Tech Podcast. So if you want to talk about a small tech product that has a positive impact on your life, yeah, what do you got for us?
This is a Canadian company called Virtual Gurus. It's based out of Alberta. And basically, they help entrepreneurs like me. They have all types of support, not just administration, but lead generation, automation, sales. The owner, Bobby Reset, who's Indigenous and is amazing, an amazing CEO, has found women who are needing to work more and needing to share their knowledge, and she's giving them their value back. So she's hiring women and people who can help others and have these specializations based right out of Canada. And they're so good at what they do. And I really feel like the CEO is so very helpful. It's just the vibe of the company, everybody that has been there who's helped Edify, they've been so amazing, and it makes me feel so happy that we have people like this in leadership. I know Bobby Reset also was a judge on Bear's Lair, which is the Indigenous version of Dragon's Den, and I just think it's so wonderful to see Indigenous people get that power back, but still continue to spread that generosity.
That's amazing.
Virtual gurus, yeah, amazing.
That was a great one. I'm going to check it out. Thank you so much, Priya.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Folks, that is it for my interview with the awesome Priya Tronsgard of Edify Learning Spaces. I loved this chat. I hope you did too. You can find her and Edify at edifylearningspaces.com. You can subscribe to the podcast at smalltechpodcast.com. And if you need help building a digital product or you want some advice, you can find us at goec.io. We are a small team and we will take all the help we can get. So if you can like and subscribe, that would really help us out. If you give us 5 stars on your podcast app of choice, that would also be amazing. Also, make sure to share the podcast with your friends. If you know anyone who would really enjoy this content, share it with them. We'd really appreciate it. In the meantime, we all want to do something good in the world, so go out there and build something good, folks. I will see you in the next one. See ya.